is what SK Gaming are going to do in this draft. Now, looking back at their previous drafts, only 3 games played in the LEC, they actually have a really high priority on Nico. They've played 2 of the 3 times that Nico has appeared. The other time was by G2, and they were given opportunities to priority pick things like Aurelia, and they would instead grab things like Sejuani. So how SK Gaming draft is actually really different than what we've seen the trends of the rest of the LEC teams doing.
We'll see how that adjusts now. In the previous game, we did not see Sona rear her head. This time around, we will not again, this time because it is banned away. The Nico also going to follow, so Rogue clearly very aware. You mentioned those 2 picks, the Sejuani and the Nico, the oddities in the draft, both taken off the board.
But in the same sense that we kind of called out Excel for the fact that Sona just kind of slipped away from them, and maybe it's a trend that Excel don't play the Sona, there's very clear weaknesses that you can punish for SK in the drafting. The fact that they're banning Aurelia from blue side, the fact that they were given access against Schalke to pick Aurelia and they still gave it away, it's really curious, and it might turn into a bigger problem where maybe they don't feel comfortable either playing the champion or flexing the champion, or maybe their priority list is just that much different than any other LEC team. But I think there's exploitation there. Ryze is the other big one. They've been given opportunities to grab Ryze, even second rotation from red side, and SK Gaming will give it away.
Interesting. Now, however, we see the hover. I think this is the standard first pick. The most standard first pick in our league. It is Sylas. Very frequently allowed to go through in the draft, and we've seen kind of up and down performances. Obviously, the best Sylases make the champion look very nerf-worthy, but the rest do seem to struggle to find those greater impacts, and the cat is, of course, left up and available.
But see, this is what happens when you're forced to ban from blue side things like the Aurelia and the Ryze, because maybe you don't feel comfortable flex picking them, so you don't want the priority pick, then you leave open power picks like the Yuumi. Now, Yuumi, very hit-miss in the LEC so far. It's kind of clear whether you're gut-checking. Do you have enough practice on this champion? Are you prepared to do this?
However, Ezreal and Yuumi, I feel like is one of my favorite pairings. There's so much safety in that lane. Catboy, that's what it's now called. For the Catboy lane, and very comfortable in both these champions. Ezreal strong before first back, Yuumi very strong after first back, so I see a lot of synergy there.
Yeah, we'll touch more on kind of the mechanics of how Yuumi works with Ezreal once we see him in the lane phase. I love Yuumi because I feel like whatever ADC she's paired with, it completely changes how the matchup works and how she plays around the opposing matchup and with her ally ADC. But Sivir Nautilus, great response. Nautilus is one of those champions that just hard counters Yuumi. I know that we've seen the Poppy also screw her over before, but usually you want hard engage. So if any of those hooks do connect with the Yuumi or the ADC, that's when things become really devastating.
And especially the Nautilus in the hands of Dreams as well. Once again, this is one of the supports that we know to be a big playmaker, to be the guy to get action kicked off. So you know that if Vander steps a little too far forward where he can't just leap back to that Ezreal, he's going to run into a lot of problems. But the Renekton now coming in as well for Prophet. One of my favorite champions to see Prophet alongside that Rumble. And I want to see what the matchup hit's going to be picked into is on the opposite side. Will they match it with the Sylas? How will SK Gaming approach this?
And I feel like it's now just about kind of sculpting the perfect matchup for Prophet. I expected something like the Kennen ban. Nico's already taken away, so you have 2 ranged top laners. Kind of Jace is the last one standing, where they can continue to pinch that top lane pool and just say, we own the top lane. The top side of the map is ours because we have such a powerful pick like Renekton, and we're going to take away anything that you might have in the bag of tricks to deal with this champion.
And I love it because anytime you take away, let's say, the Kennens and the Jaces, it means that you have to pick something melee to go toe-to-toe with the Renekton. And those lanes are always so hype.
And on SK Gaming side, they're like, quick, take away every jungler that can dive, get rid of the AP junglers. We don't want to deal with the Elise because we know how devastating Renekton can be. So we'll see if SK Gaming kind of take the same route that Splice did, where they say, okay, we see the Renekton, we don't have Nico, we don't have Kennen, we don't have Jace. What else can we put up there? Are we going to try to go toe-to-toe with this pick, or are we going to play weak side, maybe grab a more self-sufficient top lane or something like well, I don't think Poppy here, but a tank.
Definitely an option, of course. The Rek'Sai now locked in as well for Inspired's most successful pick thus far. And of course, another champion that has a decent amount of dive threat at level 6, has the ability to reset the tower aggro. At least, of course, having it at level 3 does mean she's a bit more of a threat.
Grabbing Rek'Sai is important here because if they choose to go, I was going to say either a Rumble or a Vladimir, it's now a double AP composition coming out of SK Gaming. And so by taking away Rek'Sai, you take one of the primary AD junglers out. So it almost forces Selfmade to go for either a Vi or a Lee Sin. He was looking for an AD jungler, and the Vi is where he landed.
Started in the LCL, now we're here. Vi coming through. Excited to see what Selfmade can do on the champion. Of course, very telegraphed what she wants to do. How to find out how well it can be executed. And now the debate for Larsson's pick. Of course, that comfort pick Azir has been taken off the board. Will have to show us something different this time around. And Potentially another sustained damage threat in the form of the Casio will now be locked in as well.
So you have a lot of poke and a lot of protection for that poke. I really like in team fights how Casio can line up with ADCs because she just basically has this giant threat in this zone around her, although they haven't swapped yet. I have seen Renekton play
20 seconds, 20 seconds. Once again, what league are we in? The LEC, not the LPL. Don't be, not here. We'll give it 14 seconds, Frosk, and you can tell me I'm wrong if they swap, but for now, we can talk about jungle or bot lane instead while we wait for the timer.
And I feel like for SK Gaming, it's about your 2v2, especially post level 6 in that mid lane. And then you're okay, he stayed mid lane. And then for Rogue, it's about getting out of lane phase. Their power post lane phase, especially because they have a champion like Yuumi and Ezreal, who do really well once they're grouped up and once they're on 1 to 2 items. That's their big window that they want to attack this map.
And also for Rogue, it's kind of about setting expectations for the team. Once again, they are 2-1, already up to a much better start than they had in the previous season. However, they've beaten the 2 currently weakest teams in our league, in Excel and Vitality. Can they show us more against SK Gaming, a no-doubt playoff contender as this roster just continues to ramp up? And SK, can they show us dominance through individual ability in this game? That is the big question. Of course, Inspired on your screen, looking comfortable, looking confident, the audience ready to get into game. Let's go. It's SK versus Rogue. Go self-made. Self-made fans out in force. I'm loving it. We'll see what he can do on the Vi.
I feel like there's like 2 types of people. There's like woo girls and there's ow guys. And that's where the crowd really falls.
We'll find out. You can figure out what you are. We'll run it. You know, we had the 4 houses before. You could be the council or the faceless. Now you can be a woo girl or an ow guy. Well, it's the next event. It's confirmed. I've got the authority to say that. Sure, why not? Here we are. It's SK Gaming versus Rogue as we graciously get back on topic. See how we did that? That's a casting move.
So nice heart advance. I want to quickly touch in on Woolite and Vander down here on the Ezreal and the Yuumi. Thank you, observers. So this is going to be what, Catboy? Catboy is what we're going with. So how Yuumi and Ezreal are going to gain priority and pressure into this lane is clearly through their poke. If you haven't played against Yuumi, we've seen a couple times the LEC, she's really dependent on where her ADC's positioning is. She throws out a little Q, it tags you. Now just imagine that layered with a bunch of Ezreal Qs and how obnoxious it can be. But of course, if they lose control of the wave priority, which is why it's so important that Ezreal and Yuumi don't need to leash for their jungler, they need to get here first, because if they lose control of the wave, then you have all those minions standing in front of you to block the Q. So you shouldn't ever see an Ezreal and a Yuumi leash for their jungler. They should always walk to the lane first, and I also like the response then from Crown Shot and Dreams to say, well, you're not getting the shove in. I've got the W on the Sivir, and we are forcing this one in.
So something that I absolutely love here that we've already seen in this lane is that if you played against Yuumi and solo Q, you know this, that the Q is essentially impossible to dodge. There's really nothing you can do against it. But what Dreams does is he walks alongside Crown Shot to make sure that he is the person taking damage. He has extra pots in this lane rather than letting Crown Shot. See, he's trying to stand in front of it. Didn't work out that time. Trying to block up those Qs and stop his AD carry from getting slowly chipped away at.
It's actually fun. If you guys play Cho'Gath at home, one of the best things to do is because Shogat's model is so massive, it's just stand on your ADC and make it really hard for the enemy team to click him. You don't actually need to zone control. You just need to be super obnoxious. Also, if you're playing a tank and you have like Nautilus shields, sometimes you'll see Nautilus players, if they have the shield available, they'll walk up to the creeps that the enemy actually wants to last hit, and they'll stand on the creeps, and they'll deny them the creep by taking the auto attack and then proccing their shield.
There's an entire Donkey video about that Hecarim strategy where you just stand on top of the creeps.
It's not about beating your opponents by killing them, it's about tilting them off the face of the planet.
It's about sending a message, folks. Wins, LP, who cares? Of course, both these teams probably interested in finding a win. However, SK still 1-2. Rogue has the better record right now, despite the perception that SK might be the stronger team. For now, things are going okay in the bot lane. We saw yesterday, Yuumi lane's level 1, quite weak. The first back stronger for Yuumi, wants a few points in that queue before she can really start to threat, before that poke becomes kind of unbearable to deal with. So for now, Sivir Nautilus, I think no surprise to see them have the wave pressure. However, Inspired will reveal himself by taking the Scryer's Bloom there rather than Blast Cone and is backing off.
And you can see that there's a lot of priority through Larson and Prophet there, the fact that they're so far in their lanes. And Inspired by having a pick like a Rek'Sai, who's such a control-oriented jungler, did a good job just being like, I've got my vision down here, complete control of the bottom side of the river. I took the Scryer's Bloom, like everyone's safe, just play it out, boys. Farm, be aggressive if you want. No ganks coming.
And you talked about the handshake moment last game where it's like, all right, we're going to get to 3 items, and then we're going to fight. Like, all right. Well, for me, the handshake moment in this game is the junglers. Of course, Rek'Sai versus Vi. Vi champion we haven't seen in a long time. 2015 Summer Shook was the last person to play it in the EU LCS at the time, now the LEC. And I'm curious what Selfmade does, what innovation he'll show us. You know, it was the Q Flash was like the revolutionary thing back when people were discovering biomechanics. I don't know if anything has been added since, but we'll get to find out.
I don't think he gets much innovation when he doesn't have priority in his lanes and he loses his Scuttle Crab.
You're a Debbie Downer. All right.
I mean, the reality is his Selfmade's like, I've got one goal. It's just to kind of like stabilize things, play when they're strong. So you can see that now that Pyrion has push, he's like, maybe I can cheese in and get these Raptors, but I'm looking for level 6.
It's a good look. Has the power. The AoE there. Little clonal shotgun blows there. And for me, level 6 in this lane has to feel pretty uncomfortable for Larson because not only do you have a Sylas who's going to want to leap on top of you, you have a Sylas that's going to steal your ult. And if you try to ult him and he ults you in response, what happens? Rosgrim?
You die.
The greatest staring contest of all time? Who dies?
I want to see it now. 2 Cassiopeia ults at once. I imagine they would just both get locked up.
Such a long cast animation, and you don't notice it when you're not playing on LAN because you have ping, you have a connection. Turns out, but when you're on like 0 ping server environment, it's a long quarter of a second.
Tuning back into that bot lane because the first back has now come through, and not only that, but Woolite went for the Sheen. I'll hold it though. He's okay. He's okay.
Oh, that's fine.
He's okay.
No kill pressure yet. Still level 5, but I like that we're focusing on the bot lane, as you mentioned. Frostfang coming in. And interestingly enough, there's a support in the mid lane. Now that is a grounded Sylas. Will dash away, but Inspired. Posturing, ready, threatening here in Dreams. Functioning as a second jungler as he just covers in the mid lane here.
Making sure that he can get this wave in and it's not frozen.
Spider knots away.
As I say that.
Larson. That felt like not the right place to back. I'm going to be honest.
He's got the cannon in his creeps. That's a feel bad for Pyrion. He does not want to be there.
Difficult. And of course on the bottom side of the map, not a whole ton of kill pressure at this stage for this bottom side unless Crown Shot really overextends. So Dream's not giving up too much to roam there, but now...
triple man gank!
Pyrion. He doesn't know it yet, but this Cassio ult's going to need to be nutty if they commit for this.
And a reminder, like Dreams pulled into that lane to try to give Pyrion something so he could get that wave shoved out, but the cannon creep Larson just pulled it into his creep wave, got it to hold there, and then they set up by sending Renekton and Rek'Sai to try to gank him. So good heads up by Pyrion to be like, probably in danger here.
Absolutely. And one thing that I like, we talk a lot about the bottom side, Selfmade now here as well, could see a potential gank. Woolite not stepping forward, tempted to do so. The hook does land onto Yuumi. That's going to be disastrous. Trying to burst her down. Don't quite get the timing right.
Classic bait right there. Come on, Yumi's just going to reconnect. The hook can't hit her unless you have hard CC that you can chain and instantly kill her. Has to hit Woolite.
They wanted to follow up. They wanted the Vi there to just come in. But level 6 now comes in for Selfmade. Maybe they look for the follow-up here. Of course, the Honey Fruit going to heal back up on the bottom side, keep the pressure going. Ezreal, no TP available this time around.
But going back to it, the fact that Woolite went for the Sheen as opposed to the Tier, we see more and more Ezreals doing this, but he's actually a terror against Sivir. So they actually needed Selfmade to come down there to look for aggressive plays like that, because just in the 2v2, Ezreal and Yuumi will start winning it very hard, at least in terms of the poke damage.
And interesting as well, of course, Renekton in general has a lot of healing in the kit, as well as not requiring a secondary resource. So we can see Prophet not opting to back as much, but instead continuously putting down a little bit of lane pressure and then moving into that mid lane. So ready to punish Pyrion. Pyrion is yet to go down despite the resources put against him. Still has gone down in CS. 15 discrepancy there, but despite all of that, the bot lane pressure that's been being built now results in Selfmade grabbing an early Infernal. Very strong for a Vladimir, Silas, Sivir composition. Prophet, though, now looking for the all-attack. Just going to walk away, taking his time. We'll get the empowered heal here. Prophet not going to connect on the Cold and Meek either, but instantly into the mid lane. Point and click them down. A bit of assault and battery to get us started. Dream's going to make it out, but a quick kill over to the side of SK. Maybe not. Heal now coming in. Crown Shot going to body block. Well played to stop it. Crown Shot now stepping forward. Still fearless. Moving into the void. They're going to destroy him. The cat does nothing. Catboy dies.
Oh, they just didn't have enough in the tank right there. The immediate turnaround from Nautilus. Crown Shot plants his feet, comes in with the TP, says, not today.
And I love that Vander and Woolite are trying to make plays, but Crown Shot and Dreams are just outplaying in that exchange.
And just so aggressive. You know, maybe that's completely different if Yuumi has access to her ultimate, but still level 5. Ezreal and Yuumi. And without the root as well as the burst damage from the True Shot, they just way overextend, punished by the TP from Sivir. Fell shield use from Crown Shot, and then again, plants his feet, hits them both with a boomerang, and then Dreams. Turns around.
Brutal. The level 6 is coming in so clutch there from the side of SK. And when we looked at this game, Frostcar, and we were talking about it while we were in that delay, and you were talking to me a lot about team fights, because Rogue loved to team fight in the XL and team fights, and SK loved to team fight in XL and team fights. Now, that was one way you said this game could go. There was another way, too.
The mentality was like, you come in, you look at Selfmade, you're like, this guy is so explosive in the early game, he can just completely destroy teams before 10 minutes in the game. We're now 10 minutes here. I'll hold it.
Hook's gonna land. Boomerang Blade goes in. And things not getting easier here on the bottom side.
Or Selfmade doesn't make the impact and we get to team fight phase, and both teams are exactly where they want to be, and this is where Rogue really excels, in those team fights. But
you can see what side of the coin we ended up on, and while Selfmade has had a kill so far, also the bottom lane. So, SK, we wanted to know individual advantages. How big would they be? Well, right now, very big, as Woolite and Vander overextended on that bottom side.
What's so punishing right now is now that Sivir has access to the pickaxe as well as the Caulfield's hammer, her ability to just like hard shove the lane and push the wave for free, like she's going to kill all of those minions, means that this Sheen pickup from Ezreal and the poke damage from Yuumi is just never going to connect. Sivir doesn't have to lane against them. She's just going to hard push and then look for how she can chip away with the boomerang bang, and then it leaves Nautilus to be unlocked. Like, those two kills and having that item breakpoint completely changes the dynamic where Woolite and Vander could have had opportunities to fight back in this lane. Now they don't.
So incredibly difficult. And then as well, we see Inspired was kind of taking control of a lot of the jungle earlier on, now falling a little bit behind. Opted for the Chilling Smite. A little bit stronger ganks, a little bit more additional damage out into these short exchanges, but with the Challenging Smite on the opposite side, with Selfmade building up an XP advantage, things are only going to get harder in that 1v1 matchup as they're all coming over, but it is too little too late, and now SK firmly in control of this game. 2K up 11 minutes in, they have the Infernal, they have the Herald, and it is now on Rogue to try and survive.
And now they've lane swapped, so they've got an initial advantage here, and they're just trying to get Sakura into a free farm lane on this Vladimir. He did a good job. He was against the likes of the Press the Attack Renekton. He's like, there's no way you can dive me. I've got the pool. I'm going to try to scale up alongside you into a side lane. And they're very quickly now moving around Crown Shot, who has his first completed item, and just trying to siege up these structures and get as many plates as possible. If you can springboard this Sivir ahead of the clock, where she's running around with Essence Reaver and Infinity Edge, you know, way before 20 minutes, these 5v5s are so far heavy in SK's favor.
And we saw it in the previous game with Splice, right? We saw what happened when Kaveh was able to continuously grab plates in every single lane. The same thing is now happening for Crown Shot. 12 minutes of the game, he's already got one item and boots 2. And this lane has been a question. Not a lot happening. You see a lot of these continuous aggressive trades back and forth, but as more CDR goes into the pocket of Vladimir, it only gets harder for Renekton. There's just so much healing in this lane. Prophet dashing in and out as quickly as he can.
The more that I think about it, the more that I actually really love that play of giving the plates, like the gold, to Sivir. Because you could have picked anywhere. You could have given it to the Vladimir. But the thing about Ezreal is that it's so hard to put Ezreal far enough down that he doesn't make a huge impact in the mid game no matter what, because his items are so cheap and he hits for so hard. And it's really hard to stop him from doing damage because of his safety with his poke. By giving it to Sivir, you're making sure that you're never in a deficit in terms of your AD carry not being strong when the enemy ADC is really strong.
Ooh. And at least now we can see, as the observers are highlighting, that some plates are going back. But right now, this Ezreal Yuumi lane, this terror that when you get a lead is just supposed to be so impossible to lane against, has not had that effectiveness. And another Drake going down, second Infernal. The Dragon RNG very much favoring SK in this early game.
Yeah, this game is wildly getting out of Rogue's control right now.
Clearing the waves, and I wonder what they're going to do at this bottom lane, how exactly they're going to use this, and more importantly, what the cat is going to do for now. Vander has been that. Sometimes Yuumi feels so OP, and sometimes she feels like kind of you just have 50% of a champion on your team, and this is one of those 50% of a champion games thus far.
She works really well with champions like Renekton and Rek'Sai because of their ability to get into backlines, and then if you think about a Yuumi ult that's like flying around everywhere and just causing havoc for everyone. But Rogue need to make sure that they can get to that point at not too much of a deficit so that Rek'Sai and Renekton actually have the tanky stats or the damage that if they get into a backline, it means something, and that they're tanky enough to survive getting back there. Otherwise, yeah, Yuumi means nothing.
And of course, the thing that we always talk about with Ezreal is inevitably, most of you know it all, but we'll say it once again, is the 2-item power spike, right? This is the point where Ezreal is, relative to every other champion, incredibly strong. Now, the difficult part is that Crownshot gets to his 3-item power spike before Ezreal gets that tier fully stacked. Remember, the tier was delayed because of the Sheen start, and now gonna have to see how it works out. Crownshot committing for a little bit more. Inspired is here, however. Crownshot now in trouble. The flash to knock up the Halo Blade. A lot of immediate damage coming out, but there's the Zanya self-made here as well. The flash out to safety. The whole team is here. Prime going to the backside. Desperately wants to get something, but he's just not quite fast enough. There it is. Cole the Meek takes down Crownshot. Larson stepping forward. Rogue turning this on its head and ends up with the Vladimir onto the backside. Multiple members getting knocked out. Zachary, can he get it up? Damage is there. The cat is healing everybody up. He needs to make it on safety. Just gets out with his life. A beautiful fight for Rogue.
And just to repeat what Perk said about Crownshot and Dreams, he said the only negative about them is they try too hard sometimes. They tried to force that play. They didn't have perfect information about where Inspired was, and you immediately see the snapshot from Rogue. They completely turned this game.
In this Alien replay, everything looks like it's starting out, but we know from the spectator perspective that Inspired is there in the brush. Yes, beautiful use of the stopwatch to buy a bit of time, but Rogue so confident in this fight.
And then everyone files in. Good job from Pop to get the flash to make sure that he can get into that backline to find Crownshot, and then it's 1, 2, 3. Good night, Sivir. Huge shutdown bonus onto Renekton. And again, Yuumi empowers bruisers so well. Now that this Renekton has the shutdown bonus, it also makes Yuumi that much stronger because she has someone to tag onto in these fights.
And for that fight, it felt like the first time we really got to see Vander have a high value. Crownshot, though, has to step. No way! Way too greedy. Crownshot so close to getting something done there. But gets taken out in the end.
And now you're starting to see the power of Catboy. Again, that pick was so important up there.
And let me be clear here. Once that Iceborne Gauntlet is finished, you cannot run away from this duo. So if they are ahead or if they are in an advantage situation, you will not escape.
There's also a lot of greed from Crownshot on Sivir. We talked about in the previous game kind of reactive wave clear versus proactive wave clear. Sivir doesn't have, you know, an arcane shift like Ezreal. She can clear waves really well, but it's super dangerous for her to walk that far up into a lane because she's just got her spell shield and her ult, but she still needs to get like a head start away from you.
It's only going to get harder from here. Things starting to look a lot better for Rogue. Once again, still 2k gold deficit. 1 tower to 0. Double Infernal, but Infernal not going to amount to too much yet. It's just 16 minutes in the game. We'll get scarier as we move forward. And the good news for SK, Vladimir continuing to scale up.
They're trying again!
Oh, Woolite caught out and all on his lonesome. The knockup is there. They're not going to overcommit, however. They see Inspired zooming in with the cat on his back. Good bit of damage. Crownshot now in trouble, though. The spell shield is there. Tries to buy a bit more time. Needs to get away before the Rek'Sai ult comes out, and Crownshot will take down Inspired. Rek'Sai ult, not going to get used there in the end.
Yeah, and there's no Ezreal ultimate available there for Woolite, just about to come off of cooldown, so he can't look for the fadeaway return.
And now this is where things get spicy. Early game, we saw that first play go south. We saw the first successful gank from Selfmade. We thought, it's a done deal. Probably not going to be a game you come back in. But Vander jumping around in these team fights, Some of these plays mean the Rogue are coming back, but that one, they can't afford to make more mistakes like that. Can't afford to overextend. Crown Shot was the tasty bait this time around. Last time Wooleye was the tasty bait. This time it's Crown Shot, and these 80 carries, people need to calm down.
The game's also been stalled out to a nice point for Rogue, where they did get their Ezreal into where he's very strong. So again, SK, they tried to snowball this Sivir over the weak point to make sure that she was just as strong when Ezreal was. They kind of fumbled it a bit here on their last 2 plays. But with this mid tower still being up, it stalls out the game. And I expect SK to stop playing towards these side lanes and to try to figure out how to crack this structure here.
Incredibly difficult to do. Cassia, of course, always terrifying. Her herself does a lot of damage. If you ever get grounded, very easy opportunity for to find the Rek'Sai or Cat follow-up. So, another dragon, this time Mountain. Once again, very high dragon value this time around. Looks like SK are ready to contest. This, folks, is our arena. That dragon, though, getting cut down incredibly quickly. Once again, if you get hit there, and the team is willing to commit on you, you will die. You cannot escape from a Yuumi-Ezreal duo.
I really like that call from SK to say they've got first priority on Mountain Dragon. Let them have it. Let's see what we can get done by inside track to this mid lane tower. That said, a lot of respect to Rogue. They're like, they can probably snap engage since everyone's here, so we can't just hard force this one.
And once again, remember that there is a Vladimir scaling up on the top side of the map. You still have a Sylas. You have a ton of AP pressure in these team fights and plenty of good ultimates to steal away as well, along with the Sivir. So, while, yes, we kind of expect these explosive SK early games, they still have a lot of outs in the scaling department. Is the pressure on Rogue to get some kind of huge advantage here?
This is a window where they are very strong. Renekton, one of those champions that, because of how his ultimate works, he can have a lot of kind of like superfluous tanky stats, as well as do a ton of damage with his current itemization, on top of 2-item power spike Ezreal. So their composition, because of their champions, is good now. Whereas you talk about, you know, Vladimir and Sivir, how they outscale, and especially as a duo, are so devastating. A Hemo Plague with a W that's just like slathered all over that. Hurts real bad.
Slathered. That's, all right, I'll take it. For now, Crown Shot getting poked away by a cat. I honestly don't know how to feel about this champion thematically. I love the kit, and I love that it's a cat, but there's just something about it that like offends me on a deep personal level. Just getting hit in the face by a cat over and over again. Like, do you not see me? I'm like the escaped mage of Demacia. I'm a monster. Yeah, you're a cat.
It's kind of like in the Captain Marvel movie where the cat's like the really terrifying alien.
Yeah.
Super cute.
Yeah, it just feels a little unfair.
It hasn't worked out, though.
It hasn't worked out yet. That was an ultimate. There you go. All right. We'll check in. 20 minutes of the game. Yeah, that's right. Ezreal. Woo! Global pressure.
I just like to note that you are a woo girl.
I am a woo girl. Don't take it away from me. Prophet, though, might be getting some woos here in a second if he finds a flank. Not going to walk face first into Dreams, though, giving the Nautilus that kind of respect. And you can tell that both teams are respecting the potential from the other enemy team to get a fight started. Selfmade sees that guy, and he's still going to hide.
He's looking for his perfect moment. But the thing is it feels better for SK at this point if the game does slow down. Because again, we talked about Sivir and Vladimir and the fact that they're just kind of getting this free farm, whereas I feel like Rogue really needs to be pushing envelope a bit more here. Or we're just going to slowly lose our towers. This feels bad.
All right, well, SK slowly taking control of the game. We've got Cassio pushing on the top side, the only pressure point on the map, now having Inspired there as well. Hook will come through, of course, cancel out by the input buffer on the Ezreal. Now the flash forward. Wooleye going to be in trouble. We'll get the flash as well. Of course, CC will not stop. Oh my god, he gets him again! Here we go! Point and click, assault and battery. That's going to be all it is. You know, when they say there's more than one way to skin a cat, it never quite made sense till right in that moment.
And perfectly on time is the incoming creep wave, as they're not going to get just one tower, not just going to get just the double kill, but 2 of those mid lane towers.
Well, we said it was going to slow down. We were wrong. Instantly, SK explode onto the map. 6k gold lead. Double Infernal, Vladimir scaling. They don't need to wait for it. They're here to kill people.
It frankly shouldn't be that easy just to walk it down into the mid lane, but something that Rogue do struggle with is kind of like the easy wave clear. You know, they don't have the Sivir. They have an Ezreal and they have a Cassiopeia. They need to be right on the wave to force it all out.
And you can see, this is...
They just don't respect.
This is such a Nautilus montage.
the engage potential here from these two champions. And here comes Selfmade.
One more. And the thing is, this is fantastic play, obviously, from SK here, but we've all learned that as the Yuumi AD carry, you need to step forward to make sure the Q hits. But it's not like Dreams doesn't know that too, right? So every time you throw the Q, he knows that you're going to try to step forward to get it to hit. And I feel like Dreams just read the situation flawlessly there. And the second Woolite steps out from behind that tower, that structure, instantly goes down.
And remember that springboard about Sivir? That's 2 items Ezreal, 3 items Sivir. We want a team fight. Here we go.
Maybe caught out here, instantly deleted. Larson does a lot of damage in that exchange. But crown shot. Those bouncy blades come through a lot of health bars.
And look at the confidence. SK just have 3 members. Meanwhile, Vladimir, on that inhib, takes down the tower.
And it feels like Rogue thought they were playing one kind of game, and SK have very quickly relieved them of that idea, as SK are just destroying across the map. There's these little instances. Yes, they got a single kill, but they lost an inhib tower. Not a worthwhile trade, and now SK pretty much are going to have pressure in every single lane.
I mean, in that type of situation, it's Dreams makes a mistake because he's out of position. Rogue do manage to get a catch, but you can see how clear the discrepancy is. The only fortunate thing for them is that Sivir didn't have like hard CC to force them to fight her, because she was just annihilating them.
I mean, their saving grace is that their jungler is Rek'Sai and not Sejuani at this point, so Sylas can't steal that ult away.
Take another look at the pick. This is the wrong side of town. He's just way too far forward away from his team.
And that's, of course, the thing you gotta love about Yuumi. The follow-up is very real. Second someone gets a pick or tries to jump on you, you can instantly try and turn that fight. People really underestimate the sheer amount of healing and disengage/engage potential that Yuumi has. Here we are, Frostgurn. The Mountain of Gold, telling us a very interesting story about the calm game up until that bot lane play. That first hump, that's the big aggressive engage from the cat and the boy. And now, things are very, very heavily in SK's favor. I think Rogue can do it still with the scaling of Cassio. There is an option, but at this point you're relying on Rogue to out-execute rather than out-comp.
I really like that word, and that means that all eyes are on guys like Woolite and then Prophet. And I'm curious how Prophet's going to try to play this out. If he wants to go towards the side lane, it feels bad. Every time we look at Vladimir versus Renekton at this point in the game, it feels like Renekton is just cannot hold on into these side lanes. So you're then looking at, either miracle flanks or super perfect sculpted team fights. Maybe SK walk up to a Baron and Woolite's able to layer the poke and they stall it out long enough, but I like the fact that you said out-execute.
That's a difficult thing to ask, of course, against SK. A lot of incredibly confident individual players. Yes, sometimes they make mistakes, but they're always willing to go for those big moments. Now we have to see if the Baron can be taken away. Getting lower. This could be a defining moment for Rogue. Can they find a way back to the game? The pullback from SK, willing to back off, not willing to risk the 50-50, just hoping to get that one for free. Now Rogue, however, walking into this choke point could be disastrous. Eyes on the Yuumi though. Both home members locked up. Selfmade, can he get out? Is that going to be enough? Selfmade now set to fall. GA now being proc. Look at the backside of the fight. Woolite has gone down. Crown Shot has taken out the enemy carry. All eyes on Prophet and Larson to get out of here. But SK in absolute control. Selfmade, ultimate already used, will not be able to continue the fight, but Crown Shot going unchecked was disastrous in that fight.
Yeah, a split fight, and the fact that Inspire's dead means that there's no smite, so if Rogue want to put up any sort of fight here, they'd have to do it with their faces and force them off this Baron.
So, 6k, 4k, getting lower. Where's the Yuumi going to go? Sakura body blocking, Larson stepping forward, Vander 1100 health. They don't have any way to get into the pit. Taking a risk there, but SK will walk away, not going to be scared of the 3 members. Securing the Baron and an 8k gold lead. Huge showing of dominance from SK.
And this should all give them a huge showing of confidence here. So again, a kind of a weird fight. The fact that they're really not respecting how much damage and how much control Yuumi can output, but the fact that Crown Shot is able to
2v1.
Well, 2v2, because Dreams was over there. But 2v1, both the Cassiopeia and the Ezreal was kind of the defining factor.
The Crown Shot is scary. Perfect turn back on the Cassio ult to dodge. Dreams, unfortunately, were not able to turn around and forcing the Zhonya's out. So, and it feels like if Larson hadn't used the Zhonya's there, may have bought enough time for Wool to survive, but just incredibly well played by Crown Shot. I do feel like we are approaching a Crown Shot moment, though, where he is feeling so confident after that last play that he might do something crazy here. You can see Inspired waiting for that moment.
He doesn't have Flash. He can't do anything crazy. What's he gonna do?
I never thought a Flash deficiency would be a good thing. Inspired! Oh, God, that's a ton of damage. Ezreal comes in. Crown Shot going to take a little bit of extra mana from it. And Larson still confident enough to step forward here. You've got Selfmade Split pushing on the side. Vladimir going to back off.
He's got TP.
3 items now for the Vladimir. Deathcap, Protobelt, as well as the Zanyas. And not a lot of MR on the opposite side. Rogue trying to find an opportunity to force an engage here. Crown Shot now in trouble. Keep your eyes on the Sivir. How much damage can Crown Shot get out? Prophet is now turning back. This could be disastrous. Larson going to get taken out, but no, the stun lands. Crown Shot's going to get taken down. No! He manages to live. I cannot believe it. Vladimir is there for the double kill. What a turn for SK. It was all eyes on Crown Shot, but it was not enough to take him down. A massive quadra in favor of Sakura. What a fight.
And that is going to be the fight that ends the game right there. SK saw their moment. They springboarded this Sivir ahead of the Ezreal, and they ran it over Rogue.
Oh man, the momentum in SK's favor. Now tying Rogue up at 2-2. What a showing from this SK team.
Big smiles on the faces of Crown Shot and Dreams right there as they talk over that back half of the game. And you have to feel good. That felt like the perfect Sivir game.
Absolutely. Wait.